So here we're trying to solve this trigonometric equation, 2 cosine squared of x minus sine of x minus 1 equals 0. The first thing to notice is that we have a square term and we have a non-square term. This is what we're going to call the square term, and this is the non-square term. And they're different. It's not the same trig function. We have a sine that's the non-square and a cosine that's the square term. What we want is we want the same trig function. Whether it's sine of x or sine squared of x, that's all okay. Cosine squared of x with cosine of x, that's all okay. But you don't want to have mixed trig functions like a sine and a cosine. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert everything to the same trig function. And we're going to pick the non-square term to be the same. We want that to be the same trig function. In this case, that's sine of x. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert the cosine squared of x into sine squared of x by this formula here. This is a very important trigonometric formula. Please do remember this formula because it will come up on your exam and you'll need to know this formula here. Cosine squared of x equals 1 minus sine squared of x. I'm going to replace cosine squared of x with 1 minus sine squared of x. Minus sine of x minus 1 equals 0. So that's just replacing cosine squared of x with this whole thing, 1 minus sine squared of x. Expand this by distributing the 2 to both of those terms, 2 minus 2 sine squared of x. Then the same thing here, minus sine of x minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to combine the 2 with the 1 because 2 minus 1 is just positive 1. So it's minus 2 sine squared of x minus sine of x plus 1 equals 0. And at this point, this is where we're going to substitute in y equals sine of x. So just replace y, sine of x with y, and y squared is sine squared of x. So this becomes 2y squared minus y plus 1 equals 0. And this is a quadratic equation where we're trying to solve for y. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a negative. It's best to just try to factor that out first, and it'll make things easier to factor when you do that. Now we're trying to look for two terms that multiply to 2y squared plus y minus 1. Well, we have a 2y squared here, so that first part's going to be a 2y. This will be a y on the second part. A minus 1 means that these two numbers have to multiply to 1, and one of them has to be a positive, the other is negative. You just have to do a trial and error in checking which is which. And in this case, this is the configuration that works to multiply out. Now, because both of these multiplied equals 0, either 2y minus 1 equals 0 or y plus 1 equals 0. We're going to solve for y. First add 1 to this side of the equation. 2y equals 1. So y equals 1/2 by dividing both sides by 2. And over here, y equals negative 1 by subtracting 1 from each side. Now we've solved for y, so this is the point where we can sub back in sine of x is equal to y. So we're going to sub back y equals sine of x and then solve for x using the unit circle. So we have the sine of x equals 1/2. That's from this first equation where y is equal to 1/2. And the sine of x equals negative 1. This is where we go to the unit circle. So looking at the unit circle, sine of x equals 1/2. That's the second coordinate. Well, that's here at 30 degrees or pi over 6, or 150 degrees, 5 pi over 6. So that's this first equation, x equals 30 degrees or 150. That's pi over 6, or 5 pi over 6. For sine of x equals negative 1, that's down here at 270 degrees, or 3 pi over 2. So x equals 270, or 3 pi over 2 in radians. And these three values are the final answers for this problem.